So guys, Chronic808 asks, can you also implement a feature that shows items about to expire and maybe highlight them in red color? So this is exactly what we're going to be doing this episode. So Chronic808, this video, this episode's for you, mate. Where do we want to display these items? So let's look at our pages. The index page where we display the whole list, and the actual product page as well. So it's good that we actually styled the last episode, and after this one, I wanted to do it during the styling one, but I realized it would require to fiddle around here, and I was too deep in the styling process, so all the creativity was flowing out, But let's get going. So let's start with our index page, and for our index page, we want to go into our products, and this is where we display multiple products. So in get products. So I'd say for each product, I want to see if the item is low or out of stock. Okay, so if it's low in stock, I'll consider it 10 or less items, and out of stock is 0 items. Okay, so let's make an integer, and let's say low stock, and let's make another integer, or rather boolean, and let's call it out of stock. Okay. Now what we want to do is actually let's move this to list. Let's move it here. We don't want it at the start because then the query that's generated is going to return all the properties of the product. But now the query is just going to be these values. Okay, next thing we want to do is we want to include the stock. So type in include and then import entity framework. Let's format this a little bit. And we want to include the stock. Okay, out of stock, we can say x dot stock, sum of it, or like cumulatively. Right, so let's say sum y and quantity multiplied by y dot. Do we need? No. So total quantity equals 0. Okay, and for low stock, I'd say let's handle that programmatically, and let's just say stock count. I guess by then we don't actually need out of stock, and we can just say stock count. Okay, so in here I'm just going to summarize all the quantity, and if it's running out, then it's low on stock. And in here we're not really looking at the size or any of that in particular. So let's run this, and we'll just implement this in the UI real quickly. So and let's go into index, and where we have our card image, so in between the card and in between the image and the text, or maybe at the bottom. I'll put it in the bottom, where we have the content. I'll say notification is warning, and I'm going to copy this, and notification is danger. Now you can do things like attach a class. So let's actually, I'll show you this, because later on you can create a CSS class and say, if this is out of stock, you can just gray it out and display a completely different element to this. Okay, but for now, I'm just gonna say like, is it warning or or danger? So let's make a little what's it called, C# space here. And in this space, let's declare a string CSS class, and let's set it empty. Let's say if p stock count is 0, then CSS class will set it to is danger. Okay. Else, okay, another thing, we have to use curly brackets here because Razor doesn't like when there are no curly brackets. And otherwise, we can set it to warning. We can also make a string.message, set it to empty, and let's put else if be stock count less than or, so if it's 0, it's gonna hit this, and then it's not gonna hit this else if, right? So it doesn't matter if it's still counts for less than 0 because we handle the 0 condition here. And here we can put warning, and message we can say equals out of stock, and here let's say low on stock. Okay, and here let's make an if statement, and let's say if p dot stock count is less than or equals 10, we want to display this. And we want to show the message, and we want to apply this class. Let's refresh this. Okay, and here we have one item that's low on stock. Let's do a little something like is paddingless to remove the padding, and has text centered to center the item, center the text. So we can have this little bopper here, and you can move it about. You can set this text with it wherever, and you can make this component look however you want. Okay, so you can put position absolute on it, and you can put it in the corner here, wherever you want really. Now the styling is up to you. So go ahead, check it out, and let's see what we can do about it here on this view. So get products, we've sorted in there. Let's close it, and for get product, we want to do something about it here. So you can see I already tried to do something like that. So in stock, I think I'd want to be explicit in my because we're going to be changing stock here. So let's say if we change from medium to large, etc., we want to be able to handle that. Let's do something like this rather. Let's keep the quantity. So let's add a quantity field. Okay, and in stock, we don't really need it. Just say quantity, and we want the quantity. Okay. Now, what exactly can we do with the quantity? So in here, we can actually say, right, is it disabled or it's not disabled? So let's say boolean, or rather bool, disabled equals s dot quantity less than or equals 0. Okay, and let's say disabled equals disabled. So if it's 0 or less, we'll disable this input and we'll say it's out of stock. Let's see what this looks like. So if we go, oh, right, let's put it here. Right, so I haven't run my application. Let's go actually in our admin panel and let's empty. Let's go into stock. Let's take this test one and let's empty the small one actually. I'll take the small one and let's empty the large one as well. Let's put a low count on the medium and let's put an above one here. It's updated. Let's refresh so we know it's updated. Cool. Back to menu. Let's go on the test one. And you see it defaults to medium. You'd want to display how much stock you have left. So let's say right below here, let's make a span. Let's give a class help and is danger. And let's actually make this a paragraph. What we want to do is for each of our stock, right? We want to take a stock in model product stock, and we want to say, right, ID equals low stock and stock.id. This is, by the way, I'd consider this bad code, and this is something you should use Vue for, and you should design your pages to call from an API at that point. But because we went down this route of Razor pages, I'm not gonna use Vue, and I'm just gonna use vanilla JavaScript to do this. So low stock, and here we want to supply the stock ID. Okay. Now let's say if stock.quantity less than 10, less than or equals 10, we want to display this element. And what we want to say is, let's make this bracket here, and let's say stock quantity equals 0. And just in case something somehow this happens, let's display out of stock. Otherwise, let's display stock.quantity left. So now we want to bind a function to our select and on change. So every time this changes, let's apply a low stock here. And on change, let's do toggle stock. And let's pass the event here. Or, yeah, I think that's fine. Haven't done vanilla JavaScript in a while, so let's see if this works. So variable, what did I call it? Toggle stock equals function. Let's pass e here and let's console log e. And let's check our console here. Refresh JavaScript. Obviously hasn't loaded. I have to build this. There's some issue that I have that doesn't let me automatically refresh stuff. Alright, so might have actually, but on change. Event is not defined. That's fine. Maybe I was just being weird here. Let's refresh. Let's change this. And again, undefined. Maybe it was just event. Okay, there we go. So we're passing event, and I think it was, yeah, target. And from target, we can get value. It's right at the bottom there. Cool. So document get element by ID. And in here, we want to say low stock plus E target value. So you can see that we bind the ID to the option. So every time we change the select field, we know which ID we're selecting. Let's remove the space here. And here we're binding low stock dash ID. So this way we can always find which ID we want to show. So let's apply an is hidden. So we want to hide this initially. So var stock to show class list. We want to access its class list, and we want to remove is hidden. Okay, let's put semicolons here. And before we want to do this, we want to do document dot query selector. Let's do document query selector all. Let's type in what did I give this class? Low stock dot low stock. Okay, and here we have 3 of these. We will end up with an array. Okay, I'm fine with that. So var stock to hide equals document dot. Let's copy what we typed in here. Okay, and now let's do stock to hide dot a for each element. I want to say not a good idea to use a arrow function if you don't have something that converts it into plain JavaScript, because older browsers won't be able to handle that. So let's pass an element to here, and let's say e dot class list dot add is hidden. Cool. So let's refresh this, and let's change to extra large, and cannot read at 147. Ooh, let's check this out. Of undefined. I'd suspected something with the target. Okay, so it just hasn't found it. So just to get rid of the error in stock to show, let's say it doesn't equal null, or it doesn't equal null, and stock to show doesn't equal undefined. So this error pops up because we don't render this if the stock is less than 10. So when we switch to extra large, the stock is 11. So it just all the error is saying is basically, right, I can't find this element, which is expected. So extra large, get no error, and now I'm expecting to see 5 left. Right, I'll leave it like this. You can't select the other ones. I'd say initial load could be a problem. So let's create a show low stock. That's really what we're doing. We're trying to show which stock is low. So function e, and here we want to pass the ID. And let's move all of this stuff here. All of our stock is hidden initially, so we don't need to know that. This is fine, but here we want to pass the ID, and here let's do show low stock and pass the ID like so. Okay, Now let's see what it actually generates here, because I think we can use the ID of the. Oh, there we go. So it already gives it an ID. So when the Razor syntax generates it, so we already have an ID. So basically, on initial load, let's do show low stock document, get element by ID. Let's pass this ID here. And let's get value. And let's pray this works. Show low stock is not a function. Let's move this at the bottom here. Refresh. And there we go. So the problem there is we called the function. So if you remember, all the code is compiled sequentially. So it compiles this function, then it compiles this function, and then it executes this. So if we put something before it compiled, well, tough luck. It's not going to execute. So this is the case. We can't select something that's out of stock, and we can select something and the message goes away, so it's nice and dynamic. Let's see what we get on this low stock here. So 10 left, cool. If I buy one, oh, let's check it out. 9 left. So here is our, what's it called, stock management in action. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully this JavaScript bit wasn't too confusing. I haven't done raw JavaScript in a while, but again, I just want to say controlling the UI with JavaScript this way can become very, very messy. And essentially, what you want to do is you want to do it with Vue. But if you're going to be using Vue, you don't want to be loading data through Razor. You want to load data through through like an API rather than displaying data with Razor in your UI layer and then reading it with JavaScript. Again, that's a messy path there. I've done that. You don't want to do that. Instead of taking that path, so you don't want to take Vue and use it wrong. You'd rather try to do vanilla JavaScript, but try to do it neatly. So I'd say this is more or less neat. As issues arise, you can add to this, but try to separate your logic into separate functions. This will be it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe if you enjoyed these series. This is probably going to be the last episode unless somebody requests more. So if you'd like me to add something to the shop, feel free to leave a comment. But yeah, this will be it. Bye bye.